Hey guys, welcome back to your Monday training tip. As you can tell, today we are going to talk about rowing. So rowing is one of those exercises that the incentive isn't always there to improve our technique, because oftentimes we can get the work done whether we're doing it with great technique or not so great technique. Okay, unlike a snatch where you just hit a point, if your technique is not right, you're going to miss. If we were all to row 500 meters, we could all do it, some just with proper form and some not. Okay, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't work to improve our technique, because what that's going to do is make us more efficient on the rower, which is great when we're doing a workout, right? We're all about efficiency. So we're going to break down some of the faults that we make, and the first thing we're going to go through before we even get to the row stroke itself is going to be setting our damper setting. Okay, so this can be confusing sometimes. People aren't sure if this means resistance or how exactly it works. To keep things simple, okay, I want you to just think about it this way. The higher the damper setting, the more work you have to do to keep the flywheel here spinning. Okay, the lower the damper setting, the less work you have to do. It's going to be moving a little bit more continuously. So what we suggest for beginners is to have the damper set between 3 and 5. And what that allows you to do is just focus more on the technique without fatiguing yourself unnecessarily. Okay, for those of you who are a little bit more used to the rowing, we can up the damper setting a little bit higher, usually no higher than 8. Rarely, if ever, do we need to put it on 10. You're just going to fatigue yourself muscularly before you fatigue yourself cardiovascularly. Okay? So hopefully that clears up some confusion with the damper setting. So we're going to move on from there. We're going to go through the rowing stroke itself. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, our starting position, which we refer to as the catch. In this start position, a couple things that we want to see here. I want my shoulders to be just in front of my hips, but I've still got a nice neutral spine, okay, nice flat back position. And I want to keep my shins still relatively vertical, okay? So in this start position, a couple common faults that we tend to see on our drive, which is where we're pulling back. And the first one is going to be driving with the legs and then waiting until the legs are completely extended before engaging the pull with the upper body. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you can see my legs fully extend and then I initiate the upper body pull. It kind of becomes a choppy movement, and that's not going to be efficient. It's also going to put a little bit more stress on our back because we're going to finish a lot of that pull just with the back. What we want to do is have a nice smooth transition from legs to arms. So I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. Okay. So that's the first fault that we tend to see. Next one in our drive is going to be on the receiving position. Oftentimes we see an excessive laying back with our body. And what that's going to do is just unnecessarily fatigue our core. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, oftentimes that comes along with pulling the handles up towards your neck. Okay, so that's really not an efficient way to complete your drive. What we want to do is pull the handles just below our chest, closer to rib height, okay? And we want to come to a position where our shoulders are just slightly behind our hips, but we're not leaning back too far. So I'll show you what that's going to look like. Okay, it's going to make our drive, those two things together is going to make the drive portion much more efficient. Okay, next thing we're going to move to from there is going to be our recovery. Our recovery. So this is coming back in from the drive. Biggest issue that we tend to see, and then I would say that this is actually probably the most common error that we make, is letting our knees bend first before the arms come back. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you can see there I bend my knees before I bring my arms back. What we actually want to do is straighten the arms out first, bring the hands past the knee, and then bring the knees forward. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you can see there, lead with the arms, let the legs follow after. Okay, what that does is it's going to keep the cable in a nice horizontal straight line. When we lead with the legs first, that means the cable is doing this dipping movement around the knees. Again, less efficient. Okay? So, I'm sure we've all probably committed one of those errors on the rowing machine at some point or another. Hopefully that will get you guys moving a little bit more efficiently on the rower. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.